Hello, it's me again. Someone asked me if I could do the story of the Apostle Paul as short as possible. So I went and I did some work and try to summarize this. I'll try and get through it in summary form. So yeah, let's go. The Apostle Paul. So around the time of Jesus, when Jesus was about 5 years old, a boy named Saul would have been born in Tarsus. He would later be known as Paul, one of the most influential figures in spreading the message of Jesus. He wrote about a third of the New Testament. Saul's family came from a tribe of Benjamin, and it is believed that he's named after King Saul of Gibeah, an ancestor. Tarsus is located in modern-day Turkey. It had been conquered by Rome about 70 years before Saul's birth. Saul's family likely owned land at the time, which granted them a Roman citizenship. So this is significant because Roman citizenship allowed them to keep their traditions and cultures without much interference from the empire. Tarsus itself was an important city. It was a capital of Cilicia and home to a very famous and I think the second biggest university at the time. So Saul grew up in a Jewish household and was taught the trade of tent making by his father. Around the age of 14, he went to Jerusalem and studied under Gamaliel, one of the most respected Pharisees of the time. So by about 20 AD, Saul began his what they call Pharisaic training, spending about 8 years learning the Jewish law before returning to Tarsus to serve in the local synagogues. Eventually, he was chosen by Gamaliel to sit on the Sanhedrin. This was the highest Jewish council. Sanhedrin, you might know, is the ones that actually was involved in persecuting Jesus and asked for his crucifixion and his death. So remember that. So in 34 AD, Saul returned to Jerusalem and began his work in the Sanhedrin. There he noticed a change. At this time, he noticed a new sect of Judaism that has emerged. They were following a man from Nazareth named Jesus, who they claimed had fulfilled the prophecies. These prophecies, he would have known him well, being Jewish. He would have known about these prophecies very well. This group called themselves the Way. While the Pharisees referred to them as Nazarenes, Saul was deeply opposed to them. The Sanhedrin instructed believers to stop proclaiming Jesus as the Messiah, but they refused. One man named Stephen boldly testified about Jesus, and as a result, he was stoned to death. Many followers fled after this to the original regions, especially up north to Asia Minor. It is believed that Paul would have been there and witnessed the death and probably partaken in killing Stephen. The Sanhedrin soon passed a law banning Jews in Antioch from joining the new movement. So Saul was tasked with delivering the decree to the northern territories. On his journey to Damascus, however, something extraordinary happened. Bright light from heaven struck him down, and he heard a voice that said, "Saul, why are you persecuting me? I am Jesus. Rise and enter the city, and you will be told what to do." So Saul was blinded, and his companions, which all witnessed this, they helped him and led him into Damascus. For 3 days he neither ate or drank, until a disciple named Ananias prayed for him. And something like scales fell from his eyes. Saul was baptized, and soon after he began proclaiming that Jesus was the Son of God. An immediate turn. He was persecuting them, and he just turned like that, and all of a sudden he was all for it. At first, people were confused. Wasn't this the same man who had opposed Jesus' followers? So many Jews plotted to kill him, but disciples helped him escape. After 3 years in Arabia and Damascus, Saul returned to Jerusalem, where he met with Peter and James. The Sanhedrin was furious about his conversion, and the apostles advised him to leave the city for his own safety. They were going to kill him yet again. So Saul spent 3 years back in Tarsus. Meanwhile, Peter had a vision showing that Gentiles, non-Jews, were also welcome into God's salvation. Barnabas was sent to Antioch to help teach a growing Gentile church there. But realizing he needed help, he went to Tarsus, fetched Saul, brought him back. So together they pastored the church for about a year before setting out on their first missionary journey. They sailed from Cilicia to Cyprus, where a Roman official named Sergius Paulus became a believer. From that point, Saul began using the name Paul. Thought he'll be more approachable by people, having a different name or a more appropriate name. After facing opposition in several cities, Paul decided to focus mainly on preaching to the Gentiles. Iconium, Lystra, Derbe, he faced threats, stoning, rejection. This guy almost died a few times, yet continued spreading the message of Jesus. After returning to Antioch, Paul and Barnabas faced a new dispute. Some taught that Gentiles had to follow the Jewish laws, including circumcision, to become Christian. Paul and Barnabas went to Jerusalem to settle the matter at around about 50 AD. The council, led by James, Peter, and John, decided that Gentiles were saved through Jesus alone, without needing to follow any Jewish customs. So this was a significant time and a significant thing that took place. It made Jesus more, or Christianity, open for more people, not just the Jews. People from outside. The Jews seem to be very selfish with God in a way. Paul then set out on his second missionary journey with Silas and Timothy. After parting ways with Barnabas, they had a bit of a dispute about John Mark. This journey took him into Macedonia and Greece, where he preached in Philippi, Thessalonica, Berea, Athens, and Corinth. He faced imprisonment, threats, and opposition, but also established strong churches. From Corinth, he wrote letters to the Thessalonians. On his third journey, Paul spent 3 years in Ephesus, performing miracles, preaching boldly, and writing letters such as 1 and 2 Corinthians. So those are obviously letters written to the church in Corinth. He also wrote the Galatians and Romans during this time. His ministry stirred up both revival and riots, as many turned to Jesus while others fiercely opposed it. So eventually, Paul's return to Jerusalem, despite warnings from others about the imminent danger that he faced. I mean, people wanted to kill him all the time. There was arrests. He was arrested and later taken to Caesarea, where he spent 2 years before appealing to Caesar. On his journey to Rome, he survived a shipwreck and even a snake bite. By 61 AD, he arrived in Rome, where he lived under house arrest, but continued preaching and writing letters. Ephesians, Philippians, Galatians, and Philemon, as the Americans call it. So later he was released and traveled again, writing letters to Timothy and Titus. But under the Emperor Nero, Christians were harshly persecuted. And Paul was arrested once more. Nero is by many believed to be the beast that's described in Revelation. Just threw it in there. So around 67 AD, he wrote his final letter to Timothy before being executed by beheading. Because he was a Roman citizen, he was spared crucifixion. This would have been the usual punishment for non-citizens. So he was beheaded. So Paul's life, once devoted to opposing Jesus, became a testimony to transformation. His missionary journeys, his letters, and his unwavering faith played a central role in the spread of Christianity across the Roman world. So yeah, that's the story of Paul, really summarized. Share it. Leave me a comment. Take care.